Evening there, folks, and welcome to the shop. So today, I worked on the heat treat, a couple of knives. Shot some video, and I thought I'd give you guys a quick look at my heat treating process and the equipment that I use. More specifically, my kiln and the PID controller I use to control my temperature. Hope you guys enjoy. Thanks for your time. So this is my Gen kiln. Picked this up from a nice older couple that didn't need it in their garage anymore. And I've connected it to this PID controller. This is a PID controller with an SSR. It's an on-off unit, which means that it turns the kiln on and off once its reach temperature comes close to temperature to help regulate and keep the temperature within some real tight parameters. There are other units that control power output and the amount of power that's going into the machine to regulate temperature, and they're a little bit more accurate, but this works just fine for my applications. Pretty simple. There's a plug connected to the kiln itself. Plugs into the machine. That's wired to this small computerized device. It's got some cooling fans in there. That SSR, that's where all the power comes through, so it's kind of temperature sensitive. So I've got some cooling fans and intake and outtake to help try to keep that cool. I haven't had any overheating issues with it as of yet. So this whole unit plugs in to the wall. And then controls the power that goes into the kiln. This is the kiln. In pretty good condition. I'm quite happy with her. That's my kiln furniture. Quality. Well, that's just bring the knives up to the Goldilocks zone, so to speak. Just the area where the temperature is just a little bit more precise. The lower temperature is constantly rising, and that creates a variable. This is where I've determined the heat to maintain a more constant. And that's my furnace. Super loud. Alright. Well, I think pretty much what I'll do is I'll set you down here. Try not to make you too dizzy, moving you all over the place. And I'll fire this thing up. And we'll see how far we go. I don't know how much you really want to see, but it's kind of interesting. I think the whole PID controller, it's intimidating. There are a lot of programmable parameters that this little machine can do that are outside of my needs. But yeah, it does what I need it to do. And this just helps me just check temperature. It's just a thermometer with a thermocouple on it. And there's my oil. Alright, well, let's get her done. Set these up in here real quick. runs fine in there. So hopefully when I close this all up, it don't fall over. I don't bump it. If that happens. This display is giving me the current inside temperature, and then the temperature I've got the kiln set for. I got it set for 1485. Heat treating 01 tool steel, and that's heat treated between 1475 and 1500 degrees. With the 1485 the variable, that just gives me that 10-degree variance between that, the 1475. So that I can at least come up to that, and then it gives me that boundary between that and the 1500 so that everything can dial in. It does take time for everything to be brought up to temperature, and sometimes it'll overshoot just a little bit, and steel and the heat treating process, you don't want to overheat it. That causes some complications. So slowly the temperature will rise. As we get power to the kiln. I haven't clicked the button yet to do so just yet. There she is. The kiln is fired up, it's got power to it. You probably can't see it from your position, but there is a little red indicator light that tells me the power. Plus, you can hear the machine hum. Definitely an electrical current going through it. And then slowly this number will rise. It doesn't take too long, 30 minutes or so to come up to temperature. Other than that, I'll let it come up to temperature, hold for a good 15 minutes, and then I'll quench it in the oil. Sometimes there are some variables, depending on inside temperature and outside temperature, of how long it takes to come up to the 1500. It has taken up to upwards of an hour. Now, I know some folks are concerned about cost when it comes to these larger kilns. Really it's, I'm not a wealthy man, but it's not a concern. You can run a kiln this size for a full ceramic run, which could be upwards of 9 hours, for about $6. The amount of kilowatts that they use and the price per kilowatt hour locally, you can calculate all that together, but there's some charts. You go online and you look at kiln cost, and then there's some charts that people have already done the work for you and figured out. And it's not as expensive as one would think. For the 30-40 minutes or upwards of an hour that I'm going to have this running, it's going to cost me like $1, if that. So it's not a big expenditure, especially if you're doing a lot of knives. I'm only doing 2 knives in this big kiln. A lot of people would think that's like a waste, but again, it's not expensive. It's right in there. I'm not worried about it anyway. You can look all that up. So you can kind of see the temperature going up there. And you can see the little red indicator light. Look at that. Fancy. Well, I think for the sake of entertainment here, we're going to take a pause. I don't know if I'll break this into 2 videos or work on my editing skills, which I have none. So that's it. That's the process. I mean, it's not too complex. Thanks for your time. Folks, have a good day. Alright, welcome back. So, we've reached temperature. I've had about a 10-minute soak time. Have had a slight overshoot. I'm holding at 1490 right now. That's common with this type of controller. You know, there's a lot of math involved in tuning it and getting it to work super precise, and you know, a lot of that is honestly above me. But we're still within our parameters for the steel that I'm heat treating. You know, give or take, you know, 5 degrees isn't going to have a large effect on the quality of my heat treat, at least in my opinion. And so we're good to go. So I'll open the kiln, quench the blade, you know, check it for straightness, make sure I haven't pulled any warps. I haven't had any warping issues since I started using the kiln, especially not with the 01. And then if all goes well, we'll let that blade sit. I'll get my oven up to temperature. I'll let everything stabilize within the kiln, and then I'll quench the other blade. That's the only down point to doing multiple blades at a time. You have to let the temperature restabilize if you have a big drop. If I don't lose a lot of temperature when I open the lid, that doesn't take too long. You know, and I guess I could, if I was better prepared, do them simultaneously. You know, that might be something I'll look into working out in the future. But so obviously it's hot inside the kiln. So you know, I wear an apron, welding sleeves, and welding gloves when I get into the kiln. Eye protection as well. In my opinion, that's just a good idea. So I have preheated this oil. I'm going to heat and lost my lighter. But I've lost some temperature, so I'm going to go ahead and heat it again. I have found this is an effective way to heat my oil, and I have not started a fire doing so yet. So yeah, this is what works for me. Now I've done the whole heat something else up and drop it in there. That's usually what I do if I've got the forge going, but I don't have the forge going right now because I'm using the kiln. It's wrap temp. My oil is stirred, preheated to 150 degrees. Got my tongs. I'm going to open the kiln. And as soon as you open the door, you start to lose temperature. So it's a good idea to get in and get out. Gentle oscillation. I keep it in there until smoking. Of course, I forgot my wire brush. I'm going to get the scale off of here. I'm going to close this. There's a lot of heat. I want this other blade to come back up to temperature. That's going to take some time, so I'll probably do that in another video. See if I can't find my wire brush that I've left laying around somewhere. I don't see it. So I'm building some scale right now, or I built some scale. There's a layer. It's usually pretty clean coming out of the kiln. Yeah, and the wire brush is nowhere to be found. So that's a bust, but I do have hardness files, file test, and I can get a clean area. Now that's a 60. There's no bite. That's just skating right off the edge there. That scale comes right off of there. We're hard everywhere. And it doesn't look to be warped at all. Alright. So yeah, we're glass hard right now. So we definitely don't want to drop. So again, let that chill. I don't want it to drop too far. I'm going to get it in my oven and bring it up to tempering temperature. I'll temper it at about 450. That should bring me in at a Rockwell about 60, 61. Which, in my opinion, is a good toughness area for the 01. You can see I dropped some temperature there, opening the lid and leaving it open for a while. It's going to take, a little bit of time for that to jump back up to temperature. So that's that. Pretty straightforward, I guess. It's a simple device. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and shoot them. Talk to you later.